standing up and pointing a finger at him. And he thought it would prove that she had a quote unquote unhinged meltdown, but instead she embraced it, taking that photo and proudly made it the header on her own Twitter page. During the majority of this year, which included the Mueller report, she didn't push impeachment. That went against wishes of many inside her own party. But as she argues, the president left her no choice this time. So after she revealed impeachment charges are coming, when asked if she hated this president, this moment.
As a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised in a way that is a heart full of love, and always prayed for the president. And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with me.
The president's response that she's, quote, had a nervous fit. Just another example in the pattern of how he attacks a woman, and not just any woman, but the first female speaker of the House, on her emotions, on her mental state, and not on substance. So will she win this battle, perhaps the biggest of her career? It's too soon to say, but it is something, like most things with Nancy Pelosi, she wants to decide on her own terms.
If a Democrat wins in 2020, would you feel free to go home because Obamacare would be protected, or not?
Well, I'll see. I'm not on a timetable. I'm on a mission.
And with me now, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Christine. She is the chair of the California Democratic Party Women's Caucus, and she just wrote a book on her mother entitled The Nancy Pelosi Way. So, Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So this is a historic moment for this country, certainly for your mother. Your tweet with the hashtag "Don't Mess with Mama," it has been trending. I mean, you know this woman better than anyone. Is this classic Nancy Pelosi? Is this the mom you've always known?
Absolutely. Nancy and Paul Pelosi had 5 kids within 6 years and 1 week, raised us from diapers to degrees. My mom was incredibly hands-on as class mom, chaperone, made sure that our Catholic school uniforms were pressed every day, that we had lunch and bus fare and were out the door every day. She was extremely focused on us well before she entered elected politics. And one thing she always said when we were growing up was, know your own self, be your own authentic self. And that's what she is now, telling women, reclaim yourself. Don't be defined by other people's expectations or mischaracterizations of you. Define yourself.
Yes. And in just the last 24 hours, you know, she made quite a headline in, you know, responding to that reporter's question yesterday on, do you hate the president, and walking back up to that, you know, podium. And I'm just wondering, have you talked to her since that moment?
Oh, yes, I have.
What did she say?
Well, I can say this. The funny thing is, one thing that Nancy Pelosi always says, and I put this in the book, is that criticism and effectiveness go hand in hand. They wouldn't criticize you if you're not effective. They would just ignore you. So one thing that has always been surprising to her is how her clear statements of conscience and fact become these memes. This pin I'm wearing, this is also the cover of the book, of her putting on the sunglasses after the Don't Characterize My Strength meeting. Yesterday, I said, Mom, you had another big moment. She was really, really clear that for weeks she's been saying, this is a somber time, it's a prayerful time. I know my mom always goes to church. She prays all the time for people, for the president, for the country. She always does that. So there was something about her where she said, you know, here we've gone through and talked about how important a moment this is for the country, a somber time, and they want to mischaracterize it down to a woman's emotions, and I'm not going to let them do that.
I mean, on that point, you know, the fact that the president took what she did and what she said yesterday and said that she was having this nervous fit, you know, he's called her a nasty woman, referred to a meltdown, doubts that in fact she is praying for him. What would you say to the president?
I'd say, Mr. President, don't mess with Nancy. Understand she is a prayerful, strong woman. And if you might be feeling nervous or a meltdown or insecure, you don't need to do a self-diagnosis and project that onto somebody else. Maybe it's time to just come forward with that exculpatory information that she told you to bring before and continues to invite you to bring, so that we can go about the business of having free and fair elections in this country and a good end to the current budget negotiations. And I would also say this: never, ever underestimate the moral strength and personal character and integrity of Nancy Pelosi.
Dana Milbank, opinion columnist for the Washington Post, wrote about her today, and I want to read this back to you. He said, "I once doubted that Pelosi, about to turn 80, was the right leader for Democrats against Trump, but she was made for this moment. She uniquely gets under Trump's skin, routinely beating him in standoffs with her blend of sorrow and bewilderment." What do you think makes your mother, quote, made for this moment?
I think part of it is that Nancy Pelosi has always known her why. The 1 in 5 children who live in poverty in America, the support for health care for all as a human right. And from the minute she entered politics, when it was nasty, it was terrible, the brutal attacks that would come, and she would always say, well, they can't take my children from me, so they really can't hurt me. And so now that she's been working in coalition for years with parents whose children are very, very sick, or sadly with parents whose children have been murdered by gun violence, once you get to a place where you're working in that kind of coalition with the Democratic Party and with those communities, you really can't say, well, the president was mean to me today, or Republicans made a mean ad about me today, so I just don't feel like coming to work. You have to be even stronger in knowing your purpose and trying to use your power to make progress for other people. And I think her ability to listen to people, her ability to lift other leaders up, and her ability to keep these families who are in great pain in her heart, along with her prayers for the country and the president, is what makes her uniquely suited to lead us through this very challenging time.
Christine, you mentioned gun violence, and I just want to stop because yesterday when she was speaking at that news conference, she touched her bracelet. I don't think a lot of people realize, here it is, that she actually wears this bracelet with an actual bullet on her wrist. Can you tell me why?
She wears that bullet in honor of everybody who's been killed by gun violence and every person who has picked up the mantle of gun violence reform. Congresswoman Federico Wilson of Florida gave her the bracelet, and she wears it quite often. We on Team Pelosi always wear this rainbow cuff. We started wearing them in the summer of 2016 in honor of the Pulse nightclub victims who were killed on Latinx Night during Pride Month in June of 2016, and we'll keep wearing these until the fight for equality and the fight for gun violence reform is won. And so it is a constant reminder of the pain that people are in and of the awesome power and responsibility of the speakership to try to make change. And as she constantly says to Mitch McConnell, to the NRA, to President Trump, we're not going away.